human resources, human capital, people and culture. This single vocation has many names. HR professionals are responsible for what is arguably the most critical success factor within any organization. It's talent. HR Studio Podcast brings you interviews from HR and industry thought leaders so you can listen, learn and leverage. Welcome to HR Studio Podcast, building the next generation of HR leaders. HR Studio is brought to you by A.J. O'Connor Associates. To learn more about our sponsor, please visit ajoconnor.com and be sure to check out the AJO blog for additional HR learning tools and resources.
Welcome to HR Studio. This is your host, Kyle O'Connor. I'm excited to have a guest with us today that's going to be really challenging the way we think, as this is a kind of a different strategy, I would say, that we're looking into to kind of help some of our HR leaders. Today we have Maryam, and I'm going to mess up your last name, but I'm going to do my best. Sharifzadeh. How'd I do?
Wow, that was impressive. Really good. You nailed it. Sharifzadeh.
Okay, awesome. So I got on the first try. Maryam is actually a yoga expert, and she has an organization called Office Yoga. And the reason I wanted you to come on, Maryam, is health is really the pillar that we build leadership on, if you think about it. It's something that has not really been brought up at all in corporate America, probably until about 10, 15 years ago. And if you have your health in check, the rest of your life is going to be successful. That's my fond belief with this type of work. I would love to have you on today to kind of help some of our HR leaders and get their health in check. And, you know, yoga is a great outlet for that. Myself, I would like to get more into it. But to start, I would love to hear a little bit about your journey, how you got into, in particular, office yoga, and what is it? And then we could just go from there.
Okay. Kind of a big question, but but I could, to minimize the effort, I guess, or the time in this. It was a very organic approach, really. I was teaching for one company for a really long time. I was in transition. I was working as a wellness coordinator at UC Berkeley. And I was in transition. I had left that position and was trying to figure out what my next real job was going to be.
Okay.
And I was just thinking about what I liked doing, and I was really enjoying the company that I was going to because I saw the same people every week, and I had been with them for 2 years. There was a lot of rapport, a lot of love between them and then myself. And so I just asked if they wanted to go twice a week, and they did. And then I was like, well, I could just do a few more of these. The pay was I was like, I could teach a few more and still pay my rent and figure things out. Walked up and down the building of that same, company and just told people what I was doing. I was like, hey, I teach yoga on the 3rd floor. And another company signed on. So it really just evolved from there. And it was something that came out of a necessity and an interest. So I didn't have a name. I was just kind of thinking about it. I was like, well, it's office yoga. I'm teaching in the office yoga,
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I wanted it to be simple. I didn't want to have to explain it. And I'm definitely not going to call it my name. No one is ever going to pronounce it Maryam Sharifzadeh Yoga. That's not going to go anywhere. So, yeah, it was a very organic approach. I just started telling people what I was doing, and it really picked up pretty quickly. It was 4, 5, 6 months. I had quite a few, maybe 4 or 5 businesses, which was a lot. Now that I think about it, it was a lot to start in that small time.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. And that's when I knew that I was doing something right.
Right.
I feel like if the world's feeding you, they're responding well, then that's a sign that you should just keep going with what is. So
That's
I gave it some time and it evolved from there.
What were you finding when you were starting out? What was the pain point for these organizations that were hiring you? Was it that they wanted their employees to be healthier, or that they weren't balanced, life-work balance wasn't in place, or they just wanted to overall give something in the office to kind of create team camaraderie or something like that?
It's usually a combination of those things, I would say. The person that will bring it in is generally health-oriented or wants to offer something to their employees. or they really know about yoga and they love yoga, especially here in San Francisco, it's everywhere, so people are familiar with the benefits, especially of meditation and movement and breath work. So it's not that they're not familiar with yoga. And when they know the benefits of it, it's an easy thing to implement in the office. And in San Francisco, I think in particular, they're really good about offering benefits to people, almost to the point where it might be too much. Like they really give everything away. Their employees are really spoiled here, in a good way. But so yoga is something easy that they can implement that has so many benefits, as the physical and the mental. So yeah.
It's very cool. So just to let you know about my first yoga experience, my wife took me probably about 3 years ago to go do Bikram yoga. And, I like violated every single etiquette rule that they have when you walk in. First, we show up late. Second, I walk in with my socks on. Everyone's looking at me like, who the heck is this guy? And I think I had my sneakers on too. Once I got past that, I was good. And I absolutely love it. And it's something that, starting in 2018, I'm definitely going to carve out time to work with yoga a little bit more. But two questions that came out of that story, and just to kind of have some levity with the conversation, but thinking about our audience, some people might be a little intimidated about trying yoga for the first time. What advice would you give to them about starting out with yoga, especially office yoga?
Advice? I'd say keep your expectations really low.
Okay.
That's probably the best way to approach anything. And I do find that people are really intimidated. And that's a big piece of why, even if we do offer yoga in the company, a lot of people won't join because they're nervous. They've never done yoga. Or you hear a lot, it's like, oh, I'm not flexible, so I can't do yoga.
Right.
And that's like saying I'm too dirty to take a shower. Like, of course, if you're inflexible, you should try yoga.
Right.
So what I've done and just found over time that I've developed the office yoga, I'm trying to standardize the practice, and I'm really pulling apart the poses to make them accessible for everybody.
Okay.
So if you're a brand new beginner, which is most of the people in office yoga, they've never done it before, you really just break it down, keep it simple. I'm also working with physical therapists to just like really break down the movements and analyze how do the shoulders work and what poses are beneficial for them? How do the hips work and what poses work for them? And a lot of times we don't have that much time. The classes are 30 minutes or, about an hour max. So how can I get the most benefit in that short amount of time? So office yoga in particular is designed for people who've never done yoga before. And of course, if you have done yoga before, we have, obviously more advanced moves for you, and we could throw out different things that you could do, but keep your expectations low. Just show up, have fun. You're with your coworkers, everybody there. So there's nothing to really be nervous about.
That's awesome. And I'm sure when you said you work with physical therapists and everything, what areas are you finding are like the biggest sore point for employees that are sitting in an office or working in an office all day? I mean, what areas do you address the most, would you say?
5 points.
Okay, cool.
Neck, wrists, shoulders, low back, and hips.
Okay.
Those are always the hot spots that people want to work out. I actually start all the classes asking for requests. I'll check in with them, say, how are you feeling? Is there anything in particular that's bothering you today? And almost always one of those or 2 or 3 of those spots are called out.
Wow. Okay.
So neck, wrist, neck, shoulders, low back, and hips.
That's great. So could you, now that we're doing a little bit of video here, could you show us maybe, I'm not going to ask you to do hip because you're going to have to move back.
Move.
And I feel bad for audio only audience, but they're going to have to go to a computer and watch this. But could you show us maybe a wrist stretch or any type of neck or something like that? Yeah,
absolutely. So one easy one to do is you can just take your right hand out. So I'll mirror you guys.
Okay.
You just extend the arm. And with your left hand, just pull the thumb back.
Like this?
Yeah.
Okay,
and then press your wrist towards me. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And then you just go down the fingers. So then you can pull the finger back.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you just slowly, one breath at a time per finger, I would say. And work that way. And if you're sitting at a desk, You could place your hand on the desk with the wrist pointing away from you.
Okay.
Do you want to see my all-time favorite move, though?
Yeah, sure. Let's see it.
I do this so many times through class. Cactus arms.
Oh, for slouch back.
It's so easy. Everyone could do it. Opens up the chest and it engages the muscles in the upper back. So easy, and it's so beneficial.
Very cool. How many times a day do you recommend someone doing this? Like if they're sitting at a desk most of the day?
Cactus arms?
Yeah.
Or just wrist something in general? I would say.
Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I would say at least like at the top of every hour if you can. Okay. It takes you can hold this for 5-10 breaths. And it would just wake you up,
That's great.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like for our audience, if they forget to do it, go on your iPhone, whatever you have, and just set an alarm every hour. It's so easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking about how that applies to HR leaders, people that are building these skill sets. We have several guests that talk about we had one that studied brain science from Harvard, and he said you have to unfocus. And something like this would kind of intentionally set that unfocused time. That way they could they're doing two things. They're resetting their brain before they dive into the next assignment, and also they're helping their overall, health. So that's awesome. I like the cactus arms and I like the wrist stretch. Cool.
They're easy to do.
Yes, definitely. What health benefits do you see besides the obvious? Like what other health benefits for someone in the office do you see with yoga? What have you heard from people that you've worked with, some of your clients?
Success stories.
Yeah. Type of, it could be physical, it could be emotional, anything.
Most of the time, a general overall feeling that people walk away with is that they're just more content with what's going on in their lives. It's mostly personal, but even at work. And those things are correlated, whether Absolutely. Or not they realize it. They feel more content with what is in the situations that they're in. They feel happier. They're more relaxed and calm when they go back. And once they walk around and get back to their desks, they're more efficient at what they're doing. They have a little bit more clarity and they can work faster and at the things that they're doing. I do have a great success story of one woman who, she's a mom, she has a family and she didn't have time to go to the gym after work or before work. She had a new kid. And she just wasn't working out. So yoga was the only thing that she was doing, office yoga, because it was at her work, it was at lunch. So she was just doing that twice a week for about 3 or 4 months. And then she realized just like moving her body, the benefits that she had, the way that she felt, just her overall perspective in life was shifting in a more positive direction. So she took the effort to go out and work out on her own. It was short, but she did it. And within the year, she lost 35 pounds, and was like eating better, and she took a lot of the initiative, but she told me later that, it started with office yoga. She hadn't moved. And that was sort of the trigger for her.
That's great.
Yeah.
I think of someone like my wife who we have a 6-month-old at home and it's her second. So she's in that area right now where she's, trying to find time and work out, and she loves yoga. So I wish they had this at her job, but she's going to have to look for those outlets, and I'll have to help her do that. That's great.
Yeah. She's a strong woman. It's hard to raise a child. I have a lot of friends that are going through it, and it's they're power women, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what organizations do you work with mostly? Being in the San Francisco area, I know you travel throughout the country. What other industries have you worked with or looking to work with?
I really want to emphasize that we will work with almost any company. If you are in an office and you're sitting behind a desk, you are going to feel the same sort of deterioration of the body as anyone else. It doesn't matter what your industry is or what kind of job you have. This could be applied anywhere. And we are working with nonprofits. We do work with bigger organizations. Riverbed's a pretty big client. We work with the Oakland A's.
Awesome.
So there's sports teams, they're all sitting behind a desk.
Right.
All those people are relatively doing the same thing. And that's our target audience. So because I'm in San Francisco, a lot of our businesses are startups. So we do have a lot of startups and some bigger organizations. I'm trying to think of anything off the top of my head. Of course, I think Riverbed, I said, they're pretty big. Provident Credit Union is a big client of ours. Their bank, so we're not looking for anyone in particular. Anyone who reaches out to us and wants yoga, of course, we'll work with you to offer the classes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
To pretty much a couple more questions. One is, what advice would you give like someone that is an aspiring HR leader about why yoga, and why should they think about pretty much employees' well-being as far as their health?
I would say, please don't underestimate the value of a healthy body and a healthy mind. Take care of your employees. It makes such a big difference. When they're happy and they're happy at work, that business will be so successful. And I've seen it just being in and out of companies, the HR managers and the office managers, when they're invested in the company and in their employees, everything just grows from there. And I've seen it the opposite way, where they're not invested, and it's sort of like it diffuses. Doesn't feel good. Don't underestimate the value of your employees, their physical health and their mental health. And that's, I think, what the benefit of yoga is. It has both of those components.
Awesome. No, it's great advice. I agree 110% with you. I really do. Like I said before, you need to take care of your health before anything else, because you get one life and that's it. So you got to build on top of that before any of this other leadership skills or anything else we talk about on this podcast. Last thing for you, Maryam, is where could people follow you? Where do you want them to check out your work?
OfficeYoga.com.
Okay.
All of our information is on our website. You can go to OfficeYoga.com and get all the content. We have a lot on our blog and our resources. We invest a lot in our research that we do that just shows the benefits of yoga. It shows the benefits of meditation and how that applies to the workplace. Lots of research on there. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. You can find us there too. But I would just say the main hub would be OfficeYoga.com. Just check it out. A lot of content for you. And I'm coming out with more too. Sequences. If you want to get on our newsletter, I'll be sending out sequences for like holidays, sequences that you could do before a big meeting. Those are all coming out. Some of them have come out, but I'll be sending those out pretty regularly.
Very cool. And I'm going to have you come back to talk about meditation, because the two really go hand in hand. And I see such benefits. It's something else that I want to, I'm constantly working on, but I really want to get into.
I'd say if you were to pull apart yoga, there's so many benefits to yoga, and it's such a generous practice where there's so many components: the philosophy, the physical part, the meditation, the breath work. The meditation, I would say, is the one thing that if you're going to do anything, the meditation. Awesome. It's so powerful. Okay. It's so easy.
It is. It's so easy. It's just, and we're so busy that it's important to slow down and really take that time to recharge through meditation. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good. Well, thank you so much for being on our show. We really appreciate it. And until then, I'm going to be doing my cactus arms. And
cactus arms.
Every top of the hour, I'll be like in my car driving like this.
If you want to look cool, you could, bring your hands behind your head.
Cool.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Kyle. It was a pleasure chatting with you.
All right.
And let me know if you need anything else. I'm here.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to HR Studio Podcast, building the next generation of HR leaders. To download the show notes and discover additional information from this week's episode, please visit hrstudiopodcast.com. To join the conversation, we invite you to visit our LinkedIn group, where you will connect with a growing community of current and future HR leaders.